as well. So, for example, we have integrations with the popular project and issue management softwares like Jira, ClickUp as your DevOps. And we also have integrations at the other end with the automation tools, for example, Jenkins, Selenium, and other robotic frameworks as well. And we try and keep ourselves agnostic with regard to the automation tools, because if we go and make something which is completely tied to a particular tool, then it makes it difficult for people who use other tools. And so we have a couple of methods of integrating automation using either our API or using our proprietary XML parser tool called Firecracker. And so using these tools, we can bring in information from automation tools, put them into PractiTest, and then give PractiTest that role of being your hub. So if you're using other tools as well as test management tools, then it's perfect because you can bring in the information from there, sync the information with project and issue management tools, and at the other end, bring in the automation results as well. And we try and make it so that you have this ability to use PractiTest either by itself, because it is a fully featured ALM standalone tool, or to use it as part of a much bigger system as well, because the other tools, while great for doing what they do, they're not test management tools. And so if you're doing either manual testing or even doing automated testing as well, bringing those results into PractiTest is important because it allows you to use PractiTest in the role that it's really intended for, which is as a test management tool to manage your testing within. And then on the right, we have a little chart showing where we appear in G2 in the reviews. And you can see up and to the right is a good place to be. So we're up here almost as high as it gets. And so by looking at reviews of people who actually use PractiTest, you can see that we are both popular and work well with our customers as well. And then on the far right, you have our certifications. We are GDPR compliant. We have SOC 2 certification. So if you're in the security industry, financial, etc., and you require SOC reports, we do have those. And we also have ISO 27001 certification, and we're an AWS partner as well. We use AWS Service for storing information in the United States or in Europe, and we are an AWS partner. And as one of our large customers said at NETS, Sari Tallinn, we work in communicating under one virtual house, which has made the team effort smoother and more valuable. The team's communication established a better process, business development, and human relations. So PractiTest really does make a difference at the end of the line. And the bottom line is that we do make people more efficient, and we do make testing and quality into a more important area within companies. Then that's the software itself. We have a big area beyond the software as well, and that is with regard to our community. And we work within the testing community with things like webinars, these live training sessions, and we also take part in many conferences. The next conference we'll be taking part in is Star East, which is in the United States from the 30th of April to the 5th of May, and we're an official 2023 sponsor. We'll have a booth there at Star East. And also on the 30th of May, one of our co-founders and our chief solution architect, Joel Montvelisky, will be speaking at QA and the Highway, which is talking about testing the 2023 vision. And he is one of the foremost minds in the testing area, having been in it now for about 30 years, worked his way up through various companies, and being a founder of PractiTest because he'd used all the old software which was available, and there was always something which didn't make him happy about it. And of course, when you find that you're not happy with using software, what's the best thing to do? Find a friend or two and build your own. And that's exactly what he's done. And so PractiTest is really QA software written by QA people for QA people. So having done that, let's segue straight into PractiTest itself. And we only have one rule in these sessions, and that rule is please join in, participate. We want to hear from you. We want you to join in with what we're talking about. So please feel free, either raise your hand, write a comment into the chat section, or Q&A, whenever you feel there's something you want to discuss. I can only sort of frame a general demo here, but we've got a reasonably small group of people, and I'm really happy to hear from any of you at any time. Please put something into the chat. We can promote you to being a participant in the discussion. You can ask your question out loud, and we can integrate it into the training session. So we don't want this session to be something where I just natter on for 45 minutes and bore you all. Please make it relevant to yourselves and put questions in, even during the demo itself, the short demo which I do at the beginning, and then we can go deeper into your own specific cases and your own specific needs as well, and your own questions. So let's start off by just taking a look at a PractiTest screen over here. And you'll notice that, or some of you may notice who have been using PractiTest for more than about a day, that things look different here. And the primary thing which you'll see here is that I'm using the new navigation. And we are at the moment rolling out a huge new UI change in PractiTest to bring us forward from, well, some people describe it as the 1990s. I would describe it from around 2005 to 2010, and bring us into best practices for 2020 and beyond. And so what we have here is we have modern navigation. On the left-hand side, the left-hand menus, everything's been transferred from the top of the screen down to the left-hand side of the screen. 50% of our customers already have this. If you don't have this, you can switch immediately over to the new UI. This is the old UI. And then you can switch to the new UI just simply by going to your avatar over here and then switching it out when you're within the actual screen. So let's just go into a project, and because I'm now on the sort of limbo between projects in the account settings. So if I click over here on my avatar, and then there's an item here saying switch to new UI. I just click on this, and then it switches me to the left-hand side modules, and you can see all the information down here on the left-hand side. So this is the modern look, and I'm looking at the moment at the requirements screen. PractiTest has 4 main modules: requirements, test library, test sets and runs, and issues over here. And with these 4 main modules, you're able to navigate through the whole of the PractiTest system. We also have below project info sections with our dashboards, our task board, our reports to set up reports, project history and project settings as well. And let's take a start by looking at dashboards, because they're very important. You can do a lot of testing, you can find out what's wrong with a piece of software, you can see how things are going, but if at the end of the day, you can't share that information with others, and especially your stakeholders, then whatever you're doing is of limited benefit. Because being able to share this information allows them to make decisions, or you to suggest decisions, as to whether software is ready for release, particular areas where there may be problems, or things which need to have attention paid to them, and allow you to do risk assessments and things like that. So here is a typical dashboard page at the top of a project. This is the project which I'm in, and you'll notice that I've got a mixture here of bar charts, distribution tables, and also pie charts over here. And then down the bottom, I've got an execution progress graph as well. And so these different charts give different pieces of information. The bar chart and the distribution chart are exactly the same. It's just some people prefer to see things in a graph, and others prefer to see numbers. You can hover over them and see the numbers, but if you want to see the actual numbers themselves all the time, then a distribution table will do that for you. Pie charts show one piece of information. bar charts show two pieces of information, as do distribution tables, and you can add a third piece of information by using filters. And we'll talk a little bit about how you set up filters in PractiTest and what they do as we go through the demonstration. So these are classic dashboards in PractiTest, and they give you a very quick and easy way of seeing what's going on at a high level. But they don't show things about individual test executions, individual requirements, because these are charts. And so if you want to see something which is set down at a more drilled down level, then for that we have our Excel reports. And if we go into the reports module over here and take a very quick look, you'll see here we've got reports, and I'm just going to pull out a sample report over here just to show you what it looks like. You download the reports onto your own machines, and then you can take a look at the machines and look at the reports. And let's just bring up this report over here just to give you a look at it. I know it's on the wrong screen at the moment. I'm just bringing it over. Here we are. And now you can see this is a sample Excel report. It's an execution report. It shows me some tests which have been performed with nice graphs, almost like we had in the previous dashboards area. But then if we go to the data tab, this shows me drilled down information, and you can customize exactly what you see. You can have everything and then delete the columns you don't want, but you can set it up in the way that you actually want it to appear. And so, for example, here I've got the name of my test suites. We call them test sets. The features which I'm testing in my tests. Test sets run results, whether they're the status of the test, the whole test suite. Then when it was last run, the assigned tos, and then you can see things like the sprint, the sprint which it is, the name of the test, and then you can see the exact test which you've been running, what its status is. You can see how many steps you've got, and then you can see step names, step descriptions, step expected results, and step actual results. I've been a bit naughty and haven't filled many of my step actual results in, but if I had, they would appear over here. And then on the right-hand side, I've got the step status over here. You see, these are all no runs, so they don't have step statuses, but the ones which have been executed, you can see their statuses over here. And finally, on the third tab, we've got issues. If any issues have been created, then they appear over here. And I have this particular project set to integrate with Jira. So what we can see is we can see the Jira tests over here, and we can see the names of them and their status, their Jira statuses over here as to what stage they're at the moment. So that's the sort of thing that we come out with at the end of the process. Any questions so far? No. Okay, so please remember to ask questions as we go through it. And I'll move on now to the next thing, which is the flow. And let's talk about our flow going through the system. Now, we, as I said, are fully featured, so you can do the whole ALM. You can do your requirements, your user stories or specifications. Then you can write your test cases or import your test cases from an Excel document. You can link them to your requirements. You can then execute your tests, put your tests into test suites, execute your tests, and then write up any issues, all within PractiTest. But in this particular project, I'm going to assume that we have our people in Jira. And so the development and project management is going to take place within Jira. So I'm just going to flip over here and go into Jira. And you can see that in Jira, I have a user story over here. And it has a user story ID, and it's got an information that it says, hi there, these changes happened, third change, etc., live training test. And what I've done is I've set up a filter so that anything I want to be tested will be put into this filter, and then that filter in Jira will automatically sync all of the information into PractiTest. And so if I now go over to PractiTest again, which I just came out of for a moment, let's just go over here. And you can see over here that I've got my requirements synced into PractiTest. And when I click on it, Here's my requirement in PractiTest in my requirements module, and it's got all of the information synced over. Now, if a change takes place in Jira, and I'm going to change this over here, I'm going to go in and I'm going to say live training test, second live training test. There we go. And I'm going to save the change. And then if we go over to PractiTest and refresh the screen, then you'll see that the second live training test has appeared down here. Now, this is all great hidden away down here, and I now know that I might need to do some changes to my testing because of this second live training test information. But if I'm somewhere else in the system, how am I going to know that this change has been made? So what I can do is I can create a filter in my requirements module, and I'm going to set my filter to say that it's last modified today, updated today. And if I look at my filter over here, I can say last modified in the last 24 hours. So I'm just going to edit the filter, but in the case where I was creating it, I just say new filter, and then it's called updated today. And I've set my filter criteria. There's plenty of filter criteria that you can do. You can do things like any of your fields here. You can do any of your pieces of information from Jira, which have been synced in and you've set up. You can do created. You can create custom fields for filters. You can do all of that. And then you can select a particular value, or in this case, it's last 24 hours, last modified, is not empty, is in the last. And you can set it by date, absolutely, if you want to, or by time period, hours, minutes, days, weeks, etc. And then down here, you choose what columns you want to see. So let's say we want to see, let's say, the author. Let's put the author in over here. Then we've got our sprint, our name, etc. And this is, again, all completely customizable. And then when I open it, you see we've got updated today, and we've got one item appearing in it because this was just updated. So all you have to do is go to this filter once or twice a day, take a look at it and see what's appearing. And this will show me anything which has been changed in Jira, presumably by my project manager, in the last 24 hours. You can set it for 2-3 days, and then you'll be able to just come here, go into them and refer to them without needing to go to Jira. So I've now seen that I've got all my tests here. And if I want to now add an extra test based on this second live training test, I can go to traceability and I can either add a new test case, or I can select another test case from my list. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to add test number 12 because test number 12 isn't there yet. So I'm going to add it and it's going to appear here. And I'm going to click Save Changes. Now, when I go back to Jira and I look at my list of tests over here, I haven't refreshed the screen yet. When I refresh the screen here, test 12 will also appear over here to show my Jira administration that I have now added test 12. And this is really great because what it means is that your Jira people can work in Jira without needing to go into PractiTest. They can see the information that they need. Here's test 12. So, for example, if this had been completely blank, they would have known that nothing had been moved into PractiTest yet. When they know that they see this PractiTest requirement, they know that the requirement has been synced into PractiTest. When tests start appearing here, they know that tests are either being written or allocated to this requirement. When they start showing statuses here, they know that people have been running these tests and they may be passing or failed. So they've really got a view from Jira to know what's going on with the testing process without having to keep chasing you and saying, what's happening with the testing process? What's going on with the testing process? Because they can look over here and see it in Jira and know exactly what's going on. And we can even click on here and have a look and expand the test so that we can see what the names of the steps in the test are and if they've passed or failed. So here we know that this one's failed. If we get to the issues, when we get onto the issues, you'll see a very similar system working, but we also import the test runs into, we sync the test runs into Jira, so they'll be able to see the runs as well. So let's go back to PractiTest now. And we can see that we've got our linked tests here, or we can add a new test. Adding tests is very similar to requirements. We can click the Add New button. You then select the description and you write your description. So probably it will just be this last section. And this section won't sync. This is not syncing because this is a test case, not, and you see we've moved to the test library. It's not a requirement. You can add any attachments. You can add test preconditions. Here are my custom fields. So I'm using feature, business flow, etc. And so this is the description. The next tab we have is steps. And then you add your steps over here. So you can add your step name, give it a name, you give it a description, you give it an expected result, you can write any comments you want to, and you can, again, add any attachments. And you go through creating your steps like this. And so once you've done that, the final step is the traceability. In this case, we've already linked it to the requirement because we did link it to a requirement. So it's appearing as linked to this requirement. And the requirement status, because we had a lot of failed tests linked to that requirement, the requirement status at the moment is showing as failed. So this is how we create our test library of tests. We don't need to save this one because I've got plenty of tests already in existence. And so we've got our tests over here. You can see what requirements they're linked to, the status of the tests. Now, this isn't the run status. This is the setup status. So we've got draft tests, we've got ready tests, you've got ready for review tests. Again, entirely customizable. If you've got a status which you don't see here, you can edit the status box and change those statuses. Then I've got my features. This is a custom field which I've created to say what the feature's called. You might have areas, usually areas, features, flows, work streams, things like that you'll have underneath your custom fields in test cases, because they're things which are not linked to a particular execution. Your test case is a library. We don't actually execute the test case. What we do, as we'll see in a moment, is we take a cloned traceability copy of the test case for execution. And so the actual main test case is more like a library item. And so it should be more generic, not things which are linked to particular executions. And if we look in the test case as well, you can see over here, we've got, in our traceability, we've got instances of this test case. So these instances are the traceability copies that get put into the test suites or the test sets, which is what we're going to do now. So the third module of PractiTest is the test sets and runs module. And that's where you perform the executions. And in the test sets and runs module, you'll see different custom fields and system fields, all linked more towards executions, permutations, different ways of executing the test and times of executing the test. So we might have a test level here, regression, sanity, function, new functionality tests. We might have the planned execution date. We might have a menu device or different devices that you're using. You might have sprints or releases over here as well. So all linked to the execution time periods. And so to create a test set, you can do it in a few ways. You can either select test cases from the test library and create a test set with them. You can go into an existing test set and you can add new instances to it like this, or you can create a test set blank and then just add instances to it once you want to as well. So here we've got some tests. Let's just add a test or two here, and we're going to add the selected tests. And now you'll see that it's added the extra selected tests over here. And you can see them over here. So let's now edit and save our test set over here. Let's just give it a description. Hello. These are all optional. You can make them mandatory if you want to. You can make anything mandatory if you want to do so as well. And so here I've got one of my new tests which I've created over here. Let's go and take one of the old ones, and we're going to click over here, run. And what it's going to do is it's going to go to the test library, check the instructions in the test library, in the test steps, and then it's going to print them out for me in the run page. It's going to check, and that means that if you change the test in the test library, any instance of this particular test case will then pick up the new instructions. So you don't, if you've got 10 different instances of the test case for 10 different menu devices or 10 different operating systems that you're testing on, or 10 different environments, you don't have to go and change them in all 10 places. You only have to change it in the test library, and next time you run it, it will pick up the changes. So I click the button, it goes to the test library, checks the instructions, and here it goes. And it says the tester is me, Antony Lipman. And then below it says, go to Antony Lipman, expected result. Now you can fill in your actual results. This works. And we'll pass it. Then check cold drinks. Yes, all good. If you need to, of course, you can drop a file in here. Maybe you need some evidence that you need to show. You can drop your evidence file in here, and then it will appear over here as well. Checking dates. Actual result, this passes. Okay, so that's great. Now, let's say that I'm going to go back, and I've got my breadcrumb trail here. I'm going to go back one level to the instance, and I want to run this again. Let's say that when I run it again now, I need to make a change on the fly just to this particular run. So let's say that this time it says go to antony.com/drinks menu 2. So I can go to action and I can edit the step. This will release the step just in this run, not in the test library. And I can change it, whoops, to drinks menu 2. And I'm going to click update step. And as you can see, it's now changed it over here. It hasn't changed it in the test library. If you want to do that, you can click this update original test button. And this will change it forever in the test library as well. But in this case, it will only change in this particular run. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to actual result. This works. Now for the next one, there's going to be a problem. And now it's going to say description, check cold drink, expected results, cream soda. Now cream soda does not appear in my list. So I'm going to say cream soda is not there. And that's going to be a fail. So I'm going to click the fail an issue button over here. And when I click the fail an issue button, I can create an issue directly in Jira, which I'm going to do like this. And then it will allow me to select, as I've set up in my integration settings, any project which is in the list, which I've been allowed to. And then it's going to automatically reproduce my bug for me. Now, if you don't have a connection to Jira or any other system, and you're just doing it in PractiTest as an ALM, it will create this directly in the issues module of PractiTest. But in our case, it's going to create it directly in Jira. Now, this priority window is Jira, not PractiTest. So I'm going to say it's a blocker. I can set an assignee. This is also Jira. And if I want to, I can change any of the information here. So let's say this is, because this was on drinks menu 2, let's say it's drinks menu 2, just to show it. Menu 2. And then system should have a drinks menu called drinks. And I can make any changes. No more manual reproduction of bugs, because all my instructions are here. Access the drinks menu, check the cold drinks appear, expected result, those appear. Actual result was cream soda is not there. Create the issue in Jira Cloud, click the button, and go on with your testing. Now I'm going to click this and make it appear, because let's do it in the new tab just in case it overwrites that one, so that we keep this here. And here is my new bug just created this minute in Jira. And here we are in Jira. You can see that we've got a failed run over here. We can look at the failed run if we want to. And you'll also see over here, if we go back to PractiTest, we have created a linked issue over here. And if I go to the linked issue, it will show me the PractiTest synced copy of it. So it syncs a copy in PractiTest for exactly the same reasons, that you can see then the useful information that you need from Jira as well, so that we can know when this has been updated. And I've created a filter here exactly the same as I did in the other section. And here it says last modified is last 48 hours. Status is in review. I don't have a retest status. I really should have a retest status in Jira, but I don't. And the assignee in Jira is Antony Lipman. So what's going to happen in Jira is we've got brilliant developers. It's going to be reassigned to one of the developers. They're going to fix it. Let's leave that. I don't want to get anyone else involved. And then what's going to happen is they're going to fix this bug. And they're going to fix this bug and they're going to say fixed with commit, please retest. Here we go. And they're going to save it, this information. And they are now going to change the status from to do to in review. And now, if I go back to PractiTest and I look in this filter over here, where is it? Retest. Again, I can check this once or twice a day and see what's been set to in review and what I need to go and fix. So now my bug has come back and it's ready for retest. So I can open up the bug in PractiTest. I can then see, please retest, it's been fixed. So I'm going to go to my traceability tab here, and you'll see that it's linked to this test, the drinks menu test. That's the test case. And on the right is check cold drinks appear. And if I click on that, it will take me back to the run. And I can see, oh, yes, I remember this. Now, theoretically, I could change this here and fix it, but that's very bad practice. But much better practice is to create a new run. So all I have to do is click one level back to my instance again. And then I just click the Save and Run Now button. Now, bear in mind, as I said before, I didn't change the test library. So I need to change this drinks menu again, because it only changed it for this one run. It didn't change it for future runs. So I'm going to click Update Step over here. And now I'm going to run my test again. And this is going to pass. This one works now. So that's now a pass. And then this one, now this could fail, something could go wrong with it and so that would be a new issue. Now, if this had failed again, I would have linked the existing issue and just taken my existing issue, typed in my DPP ID, and then it would have continued to link it, and the next run would have also failed. But in this case, the next run has passed. But what we want to do is I do want to make it appear in Jira. Some people have said they prefer to see it appear in Jira. So they want to see it appearing in Jira in the run. So I'm going to make DPP 657 link as a pass, because some people would like to see it in Jira, which it wouldn't do otherwise. So I'm going to click the link to step button and show it as passed. And now if we go back to Jira and we look in Jira over here and we refresh the screen, you'll see that now in PractiTest, it says over here, not completed because I haven't finished it. Let's finish it. Click the pass button for the last step. And we're also going to go in here and we're going to see that once it now says passed on the latest run over here, hopefully. There we go. It now shows us passed. I'm going to say retested and works. There we go. Save. And then the last stage is to change it from in progress to done over here. And let's do done. Okay. And if we look back in PractiTest now, we can go and have a look at the issue. The issue now says done as the status. Over here, it says retested and works. And so it's all closed off now, nothing left to do. And that's the complete flow in PractiTest. Do we have any questions? Come on. Someone talk to me. Any questions? Just raise a hand. Anyone? Okay. I can see that nobody wants to talk. So what I'm going to do is just talk about a few more items, one of which I touched on very briefly before, and that was the ability to import into PractiTest. So you can import your test cases into PractiTest from an Excel sheet. So if you go to settings over here, and then you go to import and export over here, you could then see you've got the ability to import issues, import tests, import steps without the tests, or import requirements. And all you have to do to import tests is click here, you select your Excel, and then you just choose your columns for the various things which you have in the system. The only one which is compulsory is column for the names. You can change the columns, have different columns, leave them blank, but this one has to exist. So let's call this column B and this one C, D. We're not going to have anything for that one. Test preconditions you can have as well. Assigned to linked requirements. This one is particularly good. It allows you to link your requirements automatically without having to do it manually. So all you do is you put in your requirement ID in the column for linked requirements and that in the Excel. And as long as the linked requirement ID exists in PractiTest, then you don't have to manually link them. So for example, if you're importing some Jira requirements, then as long as those linked requirements have been synced into PractiTest already, then you just put in the IDs of the Jira requirements, their Jira IDs, and then they will automatically link. They'll appear in your Jira panel, your PractiTest panel in Jira, and also they'll appear in the traceability matrix to show you that they've been linked. Estimated duration. You could do time planning in PractiTest as well. So you can do an estimated duration of a test case, and then each time you run the test case, it will show how long it took to actually run that test case. You can pause it, you can come back to it, etc. Then you've got the custom fields, which I'm using current release and feature, step fields as well. And then usually this is very important, ignore first row, because in an Excel document, normally your first row will be a title row, and you don't want to import the title row into your test cases. So that's important. And then you can also do it by the test suite. So if you want to import a test suite's worth of test cases, you can import just that group in and then click this create test set button, and it will automatically create a test set for you as well. So that's one particular area that you can use. We've talked a little bit about the fields and filters, but just to emphasize how fields and filters work in PractiTest. Here we've got the fields. These are the system fields that come with the system. And so you've got things like created dates. Obviously, you need those. Last modified dates, no choice, you have to have those. Priority. You can choose to use your own priority in PractiTest. If you're using Jira, you can sync in the priority field from Jira rather than using the PractiTest priority fields. Sprints or versions. So you can rename things in most cases. So in this case, it used to be called version, but I renamed it a sprint. But so you can either choose to use system fields, which already exist, and just rename them to what you need, as long as they're talking about the same sort of thing. Or you can create your own custom fields, which are totally independent over here. And you have different formats. You can use assignees. So if that's a user type of field, then normally you'll use things like list or text fields. Checkboxes are available as well. Multi-list fields or linked list fields. All of these are available. And the purposes of these fields are really twofold. firstly, to organize your data. You want to be able to, because we don't use a folder system, we want you to be able to use the fields and filters to be able to create an organization system, which is very similar to a folder system. It looks like a folder system, but it means that you don't get duplication. The pain of folders is that you have to duplicate everything every time you want to put it into more than one folder. So here, because we use views and we use filters to extract views, you only have to have everything once. You don't have to have it multiple times. It looks like a folder, and you can create hierarchies so that they go in a hierarchical system like folders do, but they only exist once. And so the views filter down and cascade through from one level to another. And so you've got this power of not needing to duplicate things more often than you actually need to. So that's the first area of using fields and filters. The other reason to do it is for dashboards and for reports. When we looked at the dashboards before, I don't know if you remember, but at the beginning, you saw all these fields going across with drinks selections, logins, drinks menus, account flows. These are my features from the feature settings in the test library. And so I can pull in values from any of my custom fields or some of the system fields as well, and then plot them against any other field as well. So by putting these things into the entities in PractiTest and into the modules, I can then plot graphs based on the values within it. And basically anything which is there in PractiTest, I can either report or do dashboards based on it as well. So that's one of the great powers of another great area for using the fields and filters in as well. And another particular thing, just to talk about productivity and ease of use of PractiTest, is, for example, let's take our test library. I'm writing a test with, this is my favorite, but there are many other uses for this area as well. So I'm writing a test, and it's quite a long test, as you can see, and I'm writing extra steps, and I want to make sure that I keep saving this test without having to go all the way back up here to save changes. How do I save a test without needing to scroll up all the time and click save changes each time? So there is a solution. And if I press Shift ? And I go to ? over here, it brings up my keyboard shortcuts. And I have a keyboard shortcut called Control-Alt-S, which will allow me to save. But there's also a lot of other shortcuts as well. Go dashboard, go requirements, go to issues, and so go to reports, not get GR, because that's go to requirements. But so most of them make sense and they're very easy to use. And so using these shortcuts can be good ways of getting around the system and allowing you to not have to scroll around and make changes all the time and go around different pages. Let's go to requirements. Just a moment. GR. There we go, go requirements. And now I'm in my requirements module. So you can see that there's the use of shortcuts, which can be very useful in helping you to do things as well. The other things, useful things that we've got is comments. Comments are fantastic in the system, and they also integrate with Jira as well. So for example, here's a comment. I've been writing comments over here. Let's add a comment. I can use mentions and click at. So if I want to mention somebody, I can click at here, and then I can mention somebody, and they will now get an email saying that I have mentioned them in a comment. So Anthony, I'm saying, please check. I'm going to add the comment. And if we go to Jira, you can see it's synced with Jira. So if I go to Jira for this particular requirement, DPP 426, let's go over here. Oh, this is 426. Let's just refresh the screen in Jira. You should see that a new comment has appeared in Jira over here. There we go, 19 seconds ago, 22 seconds, it's counting up. There we go, Antony Lipman, and it shows that because it's in blue, that shows that it's a PractiTest rather than a Jira comment. I can do the same in the other direction as well. Please check me too. There we go, save. And then if I go back to PractiTest on the other side, let's just click the refresh button. Please check me too has now appeared over here as well. And it's showing the Jira avatar over here to show that it's been synced in from Jira. We could also do attachments, send attachments backwards and forwards to Jira as well. This is a relatively new feature that we have. And a final productivity feature just before we finish, as we're coming towards the end of our time now, is the ability to be able to do multiple changes at once. So for example, let's have a look at this particular feature over here. And it says menu should display hot and cold drinks. And you can see that we've got a featured drinks menu over here. We've got business flows, account flows, etc. Supposing I want to change half a dozen of them or make them current release, for example. I don't want to come into each one individually and click on it all individually, or I want to do assign to. So I can do this efficiently by selecting the test which I want to do this for. So I can select a group of tests over here, and then I can click batch edit over here. And if I go to batch edit, you can see now that I'm going to have all of these for current release, and I'm going to do assign to, and I'm going to select me for assign to, click update, OK. And now those changes have been made to all of those tests which I selected. So we have a fast way of being able to make changes to tests as a group without needing to individually change each one. As you'll see, there's also other options here as well: clone tests, find and replace, create a test set, or add test to test set as well. Don't delete your tests accidentally. And we've also got the ability to print a group of tests as well. So if we click over here, there we go. We can do print, and then it will create a PDF for you of those tests with all the information in them. It shows all your past runs. This is all the traceability information with the instances. And so this can be useful as well for allowing you to see the whole traceability lifecycle of a test quickly without creating a report. But the best way to do things in general is to create reports, because they come out much tidier and with all the columns taken consistently across between the different sections. Okay, any questions? Last minute questions? No? Please ask a question. Okay, so in that case, it just falls for me to finally wrap up things. And as I said, we've got these 2 upcoming events, and we also have regularly training sessions as well. So if you'd like to attend any more training sessions, the main benefit is when people ask questions, just dropping a subtle hint, that or an unsubtle one as the case may be, that the next training session, the first section, is pretty much the same for everyone, just doing a demo, describing what's going on in the PractiTest world. But the main differentiator is if we get into discussions or with particular customers who want to discuss their own use cases and their own questions. But for what it's worth, the next training session will be on May the 10th at 10 a.m. EST, 1600 Central European Time, which is, of course, 1500 UTC, well, not UTC, but British Summer Time. So please feel free to attend any other training sessions that you'd like to as well. And thank you for being such patient and silent audience for today. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.